Well, good morning and welcome to City Hall. Jason Warner is the pastor at South Park Baptist Church. He's going to lead us in the invocation. Afterwards, I'll ask Councilman Greiner if he'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. But would everybody please stand?
It's an honor to be here this morning. Please bow with me. Father, we thank you for this day and this time that we gather to conduct the business of our city. May this meeting be a time that brings honor and respect to you and to one another. Thank you for our mayor, our council members, and our city employees. We admire and respect their servanthood. We pray for their health and safety. We ask that you give those in leadership here today wisdom and discernment. We ask that you guide them to the best decisions for our city. And we pray a special blessing over our city, a city that we love and that we're grateful to be a part of. Father, it's in your name that we ask all of these things. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're going to begin this morning with the installation of our youth counselors, and this usually goes fairly smoothly. Debbie, how do you want to handle this morning? Bring them up behind us? Okay. Each year, 18 high school students are selected to be part of a city youth leadership program. 2 representing each council ward, and then 2 selected at large to represent the mayor's office. We've been doing this about, 14 years? So we have a little bit of a track record going on here, some history in the making. Why don't we start over with Ward 1? James, do you want to introduce your 2 youth counselors?
Yeah, the 2 counselors from Ward 1 are Alex Barron and Alejandra Cruz. Alex Barron is a senior at Putnam City High School. He has served as president of his class during his freshman, sophomore, and junior years. He is a member of Student Council, Business Professionals of America, and National Honor Society. Alex was named Economic Student of the Year and Masonic Student of the Year in 2013. He is also an active member of Victory Church. Alex, you have somebody to introduce.
Hello, my name is Alex Barron. My ravishing father is here with me today, and my beautiful mother, as well as my girlfriend and a couple of her friends, and then my 2 best friends.
All right. Oh.
Very outgoing.
How about we have them stand up so we can identify them? Okay. And there they are. All right.
All right, and then Alejandra Cruz is a junior at Yukon High School. Alejandra describes herself as outgoing and social, which is likely why she was selected as student committee chair for the Saturday Night Mixer for the 2015 Oklahoma Association of Student Councils State Convention. She is also involved in the Partners Club at her school, an organization where she works with special needs students. Alejandra has volunteered with Special Olympics, Start of the Future, and as a babysitter for DHS. She was recently awarded a scholarship to UCO for the Leaders of Tomorrow Council. Alejandra, you have people to introduce.
I would like to introduce my parents and my godparents and also my 2 brothers that are here. So.
All right. Please join me in a round of applause for Ward 1.
Have them stand before. All right, great. Thank you. All right. You want to go ahead and introduce our Ward 2?
You want me to do Ward 2?
Yeah, sure.
Is it just Isaac here? Okay. All right, we got Isaac Kabrick.
Yes.
Isaac Kabrick is a senior at Harding Charter Preparatory High School. He was awarded Most Outstanding Pre-Calculus Student in 2014 and Most Outstanding Algebra 2 Student in 2013. He is a member of the Speech and Debate Team, Academic Team, Swim Team, and serves as stage manager for assemblies and production. Isaac sees a need for improvement in sex education among teens in Oklahoma City. Isaac is confident in his public speaking abilities and has won several regional and state awards. He is also a member of the Boy Scouts of America and serves as an assistant senior patrol leader. Do you have some family to introduce?
Yes, my family is here. My parents and my brother are here, as well as both my grandmas and my aunt and uncle.
How about having them stand?
From Ward 3, it's my pleasure to introduce first Elisa Admonson from Mustang High School. She's a senior this year. She's also a competitive gymnast. She's active in various school functions. She represented her school at Girls State. She also serves on the student board of the Federal Reserve. She's a member of the National Honor Society, volunteers for a number of organizations, and all that while still maintaining a 4.2 GPA. So it's an honor to have you with us. And if you would, introduce your grandma.
And my grandmother is here today. She's in the back, she's standing, and she's short. But she's playing mom and dad today, so thank you, Grammy.
And then from the class of 2017 at Christian Heritage Academy, it's an honor to have Jack Wolford as our youth counselor. He's following the footsteps of his sister, Faith, who was a youth counselor 2 years ago and is now at OU, majoring in biology. Jack goes and works with his dad on high technology as it applies to football, handles the technology situation during football games where they film the different games and things like that. He's on the headmaster's honor roll with a 4-point GPA, and it's an honor to have Jack as our youth counselor from Ward 3.
Hello. Way in the back is my dad and mom and sister, if they would just stand up.
One of my youth counselors is not here, Gabriela Ruida. I had to figure out how to pronounce that earlier. It's my problem. She's not here, but she'll be serving this year. But I would introduce you to Andrew Weatherford. Andrew is a member of the class of 2016 at Moore High School, lettered in cross country, track, and tennis, the team captain of the cross country team, member of the National Honor Society, won several academic excellence awards. He's a senior patrol leader in Boy Scout Troop 276. He serves on the Oklahoma City Beautiful Teen Board. Andrew will be as close to nepotism as I will ever come as a council member. I've known him literally all his life. Since the first day he was born, I've known him. He's also an excellent goat herder. But his parents are here, and actually the population of Ward 4 may be somewhat diminished by the number of people that he brought with him today, and he's going to introduce them.
Thank you for that introduction. My aunt is here, my dad is here, my sister, my grandmother, my mother, and my scoutmaster is here.
Y'all stand up.
And selected at large, first we have Christopher Coronado. Christopher is from Southeast High School, where he's a senior. Last year, he served as the junior class vice president, as well as the prom committee vice president. He has a 4-point grade point average. He's a member of the superintendent's honor roll. He's also coordinator and mentor for the crew at Southeast. He's working toward his Eagle rank in Boy Scouts of America and received first place in the Poetry Out Loud competition 2 years in a row. He communicates well, and as far as an issue that he believes that people need to address in Oklahoma City, he has selected obesity. Christopher, congratulations. And I know you have some people to bring in too.
Yes, I want to introduce my loving parents, my dad and my mother, and my best friends, Paulo and Marilyn.
All right. And Alyssa Varghese is from Mustang High School, where she's a senior. She's also an active member of her student council, helps in planning events, fundraising, and school activities. She's a member of the National Honor Society and the Spanish Club Honor Society. She volunteers at her church, where she serves as youth secretary and treasurer. She is also active in the planning of the Relay for Life in her community. Completing tasks is something Alyssa feels she can do very well. She's been playing the piano for 11 years, and she believes poverty is a major issue facing the youth of Oklahoma City. Alyssa, congratulations.
Thank you. I would like to introduce my parents and my grandparents right there.
All right. David?
Thank you. First of all, we have Jonah Nance. Jonah is a senior at Westmore and plays on the varsity soccer team. He's been a page at the Oklahoma Legislature and an ambassador for the American Brain Tumor Association. He's a charter member of the Youth and Government Club at Westmore, and has been very active in several other organizations. So, Jonah, thank you for being here.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to introduce my father, Barry Nance, my brother, Gabe Nance, and my mother, Donna Nance.
And the other representative for Ward 5 is Paula Tran. Paula is a senior at Classen School of Advanced Studies, where she holds a grade point average of 4.4. She's a member of Student Council, chaired the homecoming and pep rally committees for the entire student body, as well as co-chaired their annual Wish Week events. She was awarded first place at district competition for National History Day and honor roll for first tee. She was a state qualifier in debate and was recognized by the Oklahoma Music Teachers Association. Paula, thank you for joining us today.
If my family could please stand up real quick. I would like to introduce my grandpa, my two loving parents, Davis Tran and Tammy Tran, and also my two aunts, Tui Win and Tao Win, my uncle, Lim Win, and my lovely cousin, Christina Win.
Thank you. Good morning. It's my pleasure to introduce two Ward 6 representatives. And first we have Paola Saldana. Paola is a senior at Southeast High School, where she served as secretary of the National Honor Society. She plays soccer and is an active member of the Business Professionals of America. She also serves as the president of her church youth group and plans community service events and fundraisers. In her spare time, and I don't know where that is, but in her spare time, she volunteers for the Latino Community Development Agency as a tutor for elementary school students. She's also involved in Latinos Without Borders and has attended several conferences and camps. Paola says that she's determined, and once she sets her mind to something, she makes sure it's accomplished. She hopes to see equality in education across Oklahoma City. Paola, I'm glad you found your way here, so please introduce your family.
My parents weren't able to make it today, but I'm honored to introduce my two best friends, Judith and Liz, back there.
Thank you very much. And then I'd like to introduce Kira Alexis Rogers, who's here with us today. She is a member of the class of 2016 at U.S. Grant High School. She's a membership of Fellowship of Christian Athletes, the Link Crew, and the Marine Corps JROTC. Recently, she was named the female physical captain of ROTC athletes at U.S. Grant. She's on the superintendent's honor roll and has received awards for her perfect attendance. Carrie Alexis considers herself a very dedicated person and spends hours outside of regular class time meeting the goals she had set for herself. She believes that her Oklahoma City peers struggle with having a good foundational beliefs and values. She also sees value in young people having adult mentors. Very happy to have you represent Ward 6.
Thank you. I would like to introduce both my parents. Can you please stand up? And they're both in the back.
Ward 7 is blessed to have two outstanding students. The first is E.J. Green. E.J. Green is a senior at Millwood High School and is a member of the National Honor Society. He was the junior class president and a student council representative. He works with the Millwood football team as the student head of athletics, training, and managers, where he assists in taking care of injured players and management equipment. After 2013 tornadoes, EJ spent 2 weeks volunteering with the recovery of lost items and more. EJ prides himself with having the ability to leave others. Ladies and gentlemen, E.J. Green.
I'd like to introduce my wonderful mother, who's videotaping me right now. My partner in crime, little brother Ian, my wonderful girlfriend, my stepfather, both sets of grandparents. I have to give a special shout out to my grandmother. I won't get snacks whenever I go to her house next time. And then the wonderful administration from Millwood.
The next person is Hunter Hill. Hunter Hill is a senior at Bishop McGuinness High School. He is a member of the National Honor Society, a member of the Student Council, Technology Chair, Politics Club, Vice President of the Latin Club. This summer, he was representing Bishop McGuinness at Boys State. He was awarded first in Latin grammar in the National Junior Classic League. He enjoys getting people together to work for a common goal. Ladies and gentlemen, Hunter Hill.
Thank you, Councilman. I'd like to introduce my wonderful parents, David and Shannon Hill.
Thank you.
It's my privilege to introduce Keegan Hart from Ward 8. This is Keegan, and Keegan is a junior at Deer Creek High School. He has received the Deer Creek Foundation Award and the Biology 1 Pre-AP Award. He plays club soccer with the Oklahoma Football Club and often travels around the country to compete. He volunteers at the Crossing Soccer Camp each summer, working with younger children to improve their skills. Keegan's freshman year, he was selected to participate in the UCO Leadership Academy. He is concerned about the lack of quality at school athletics for inner city peers. And this is my favorite sentence about Keegan. Keegan believes he's good at teaching others and often does this by assisting his classmates, working with them and on things they struggle to understand. Thanks for being here.
I'm Keegan Hart. I'm here with my mom and dad right over there. And that's it.
Next, I have the privilege of introducing Christy Wanquo. She's from Putnam City North High School. She's a senior at Putnam City North High School. She is the president and founder of the Organization of Students for Cultural Awareness that highlights a variety of different cultures on a monthly basis. She is a junior mentor for the Future Health Scientists Partnership Program and received a Best Presentation Award with this organization. Christy is a student council representative, volleyball letterman, and National Honor Society member. She is concerned about teen drug abuse in her community and fears that students are not fully aware of the harm they cause. This is my favorite sentence about Christy. Christy considers herself to be bold. She enjoys sharing her opinions with others without fear. Congratulations. Thanks for being here.
I have my principal who's taking a picture of me now, my sister, and my mom.
All right, and we will have monthly programs for the youth counselors. They'll be learning more about how the city operates and other things about our wonderful city, and we look forward to seeing how they learn and develop this year and as well as in the future. How about a round of applause for our youth council as a whole? See you guys. Next on our agenda is our opportunity to honor our Employee of the Month. And you can imagine in an organization of over 4,000 employees, to select one is very difficult. But if you are the recipient of that, it is quite an honor. And I'll ask Lucas Berry to come forward. Lucas, come on up. We have a resolution. I'll ask the clerk to read it as we get settled.
Whereas Lucas Berry has been a city employee for 14 years and 11 months, and is a senior water quality technician at the Hefner Water Treatment Plant in the Water Quality Division of the Utilities Department. Whereas Lucas Berry collects, analyzes, and conducts chemical, bacteriological, and physical examinations of water and wastewater samples to determine their level of compliance with water and wastewater standards, regulations, and guidelines. Whereas Lucas trains other technicians, works with residents to collect complaint samples, and uses SAP and LIMS Link to log in samples and input lab results. He also maintains accurate records, cleans glassware and laboratory equipment, and tracks the lab supplies inventory. Whereas Lucas is considered the go-to guy at the Hefner treatment plant for anything needed in the lab or help with computer equipment. He has been the IT contact for the past several years. Whereas Lucas recently provided invaluable assistance when the department was required to update several inventory lists within a few weeks. Lucas had current lists of all the requested equipment and could take staff straight to the items. Whereas Lucas strives to do the best possible job at all times and is currently enrolled in Utilities University, he is always willing to help when asked and doesn't hesitate to give 110%. Whereas Lucas is energetic and outgoing, remains calm under pressure, works hard, and often goes above and beyond his duties to help his lab coworkers and other Hefner treatment plant staff. Whereas this council desires to recognize Lucas Berry for his dedication, professionalism, and commitment to the residents of Oklahoma City, now therefore be it resolved by the mayor and council of the city of Oklahoma City that they do hereby thank and commend Lucas Berry, August 2015 South Oklahoma City Kiwanis Club Employee of the Month.
And we will need a motion from council and a second. This is where the suspense starts, Lucas, to see if we're going to be able to pass this resolution. And it passes unanimously. Let's show our appreciation and our congratulations. Very proud of you. Thank you very much. Didn't give you the resolution. We are on item 3C, D, and E of the council agenda. It's a series of appointments. I'll look for a motion. All right. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item 4 is the Journal of Council Proceedings. Item A is to receive the journal for July 21st, and item B is to approve the journal for July 7th. We have a motion and a second on the journal. Are there any comments or questions from the council? All right. Cast your votes. And it passes unanimously. And item 5 is request for uncontested continuances.
Mayor, several this morning, starting on page 14, item 7BB on the consent docket. We ask that this be stricken. It's demolition of some buildings in the park, and we're running parallel courses with that in the DDRC, and this one got ahead of the DDRC, and it shouldn't have. So we'll make sure we get that to the DDRC before it comes back to council. Moving on to page 23. Under item 9H1, item F, 5020 Northwest 27th, ask that be stricken. We need to rework that as property maintenance. Item I, 1213 Northwest 92nd Street, we ask that that be stricken. Rework that as property maintenance. Moving on to item 9, I1, item C, 1704 North Lynn, we ask that that be stricken. The owner has secured. Item E, 2601 West Main, we ask that that be stricken. We need to re-notify. Moving to page 24, item U, 408 Northwest 86th Street, we ask that that be stricken. The owner has secured. Then item number 9J1, C, 1704 North Lynn, we ask that that be stricken. The owner has secured. Item E, 2601 West Main, we ask that that be stricken. We need to re-notify. Item Q, 5020 Northwest 27th Street. We ask that that be stricken. We need to rework that as property maintenance. Moving to page 25. Item X, 408 Northwest 86th Street. We ask that that be stricken. The owner has secured. And item Y, 1213 Northwest 92nd Street. We ask that that be stricken. We need to rework that as property maintenance. And then finally on page 26, Under claims for denial, item 901A, George Coffin claim. We need to have this one deferred until August 18th. The claimant could not be here.
All right, any other requests for uncontested continuances? All right, item 6 is a couple of revocable permits. The first is a permit to host the Color Run, and that is the Color Run night, August 8th, 2015. This is in Ward 7. Is there anyone here representing this event? John, I know this event's had some success in the past. Are you going to make a motion for this?
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move for approval.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on item 6A. Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 6B is a request to host the Midnight Streak, and the request comes from the Oklahoma Contemporary Arts Center, and this is in Ward 6. Meg?
I see somebody here to tell us about it. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Daniel Heitz, and I come representing Oklahoma Contemporary Arts Center today. And this is our annual fundraiser for arts education. And it's our 11th year to have the race, our 2nd year to have it over in Councilwoman Salyer's district, and we're really excited about it.
We're incredibly happy to have you moving downtown. It's really exciting. These are some early events to help launch Oklahoma Contemporary up on Broadway, so I would move approval.
Second.
All right, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Good luck. All right, we'll recess the council meeting, convene as the Oklahoma City Municipal Facilities Authority. Looks like there are 7 items today. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions on the MFA? All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. We'll adjourn the OCMFA, convene as the Oklahoma City Public Property Authority. 5 items on the PPA. All right, we have a motion and a second. Comments or questions on the PPA? All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. I want to compliment Leroy Richardson, our longtime golf commissioner. Leroy, thanks for coming down today and being here in case we had questions on that item. We'll adjourn the OCPPA, convene as the Oklahoma City Environmental Assistance Trust. Just the claims and payroll today. All right, cast your votes. That passes unanimously. We'll adjourn the OCEAT, reconvene the council meeting with the consent docket. All right, are there any individual considerations?
Mayor, I just wanted to mention 7V, if I could, please.
Was that B?
V as in Victor.
Okay.
And Mayor, we do have a couple of people here to speak on AQ and AR.
All right. I also know County Commissioner Brian Mon is in the room, and Brian is taking on a more active role in our sister city organization, which is AO. Brian, you want to come forward and tell us a little bit more about what you foresee for sister cities this year?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, and thank you for having us on the agenda this morning for your annual consideration of a contract with sister cities. I join Councilwoman Meg Salyer being on the board, as well as Catherine Armitage is here with the Youth Council this morning, but she gets dual credit, also being on our board. And we have a number of projects lined up. We already have 3 socials booked for this year, and those will feature themes of our sister cities. This is a more outgoing effort to demonstrate to the public about the importance of our international community. I think that membership is on target to triple this year versus what we've experienced in the past couple of years. So the excitement is swelling. The financial contributions that have come to the organization are getting stronger due to the leadership of my predecessor, Vicki Gorley. I think she really put us on the map in the donor community so that we're becoming a more sustainable organization, and that's due to your piloting through a little bit of seed money, which I appreciate you considering again today, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Any questions for Brian?
No, just thank you, Brian, for taking on the leadership role. Really appreciate the effort.
Happy to do it. It's
look forward to it, Brian. All right. Jim, you mentioned we had a couple of people or a couple of presentations.
We do. I think Steve Bloomberg is here from OCCC to talk a little bit about their TIF allocation.
Good morning, Mayor. Thank you for having us here today, members of the council. Greetings from our president, Dr. Jerry Stewart, who's in Washington, D.C. right now, and as well as congratulations to the newly installed Youth Commission. So I'm here to give you a very brief update on our Capitol Hill project. As you know, we've been working on that for some time, and so while the screen comes down, I'll tell you where we are right now. We are currently under construction for this project. As I go through, I'll show you some of our renderings and some of the things that are happening with it, but we're very excited to begin the economic redevelopment of one of the most important areas in Oklahoma City, and that is, of course, Capitol Hill. And so as we look at going forward, the most important thing we can do is talk about the past. And I'm going to grab. It's interesting, as we look at Capitol Hill, what President Harry Truman said some time ago, the only thing new in the world is a history you do not know. And so what we wanted to do was pay homage to the past in Capitol Hill and ensure that we keep that spirit alive. And so if you see these pictures today, this is taken in the 1950s or 60s. It is the former Katz drugstore, which we now own, the former Langston's department store. And so we started out with a project where we wanted to ensure that we enshrined what was happening in the past. But most importantly, we wanted to talk about where we are today and where we're going in the future. And so where we are today is essentially we have moved back to 325 South 25th Street. We're working on that project. Our current Capitol Hill Center is housed at the United Methodist Church. We relocated from Latino Community Development Agency in February of 2012. They were growing and needed the space, and so we were able to occupy approximately 6,000 square feet on the second floor of the United Methodist Church. That program has been great for us because it has done what we needed it to do, and that is incubating our programs. So when we move into our new facility, our programs will be at the point to where they can mature, they can grow, and more importantly, we can affect more lives in the Capitol Hill area. So most importantly for us, as we look at our impact, this is through our fiscal year 14, so we just finished our fiscal year 15. This chart shows that in enrollments, visits, anybody who comes to our Capitol Hill Center, so we had in our last fiscal year a little over 11,000 people who came through the doors of the United Methodist Church. That's people who are enrolled in courses for non-credit. That's people who are enrolled in employment transition programming, people who are working on their resumes, people who are coming to use our resources at the college. So it's a duplicative number, but the point being is that over 11,000 visits to our Capitol Hill Center as it is now. And so as we look to our new facility, we expect that number to increase exponentially. So as we move forward with access, that's one of the most important things that we have as far as that area goes. This is a shot of the Langston's building right now. It's the first floor of that particular building. In the Langston's and Katz drugstore, we have 44,500 total square feet. As you know, it in the heart of Capitol Hill, right across from Grill on the Hill. One of our most important things, again, was to preserve the iconic presence of both of these buildings in Capitol Hill, and more importantly, design what we would call a contemporary learning facility for our students and our community. And as you know, with all the redevelopment projects in Oklahoma City, whether it's Paseo, Automobile Alley, Film District, someone has to go first. And so we're very proud to be the entity that is launching economic development in Capitol Hill. And so this is a shot before we started construction. This is what our facilities looked like. Now I'm going to show you the rendering of what this is going to be transformed into. And so this is what this facility will look like when we're done. And so you can see we have maintained the same look and feel of both the Katz drugstore with its iconic entrance and as well as the Langston's building. So one of our directives to our architects, FSB, was to, again, maintain what was there but make it a contemporary learning facility. So this is a shot from 25th Street as you look at the redesigned facility. This is probably one of the features we're most excited about, which is the addition of a roof plaza on the former Katz drugstore. And so this will be an area where we can hold outdoor classes, we can hold receptions, we can hold community events. So this is one of the parts of this facility that's really going to be great for the Capitol Hill community, our students, and the businesses in that area. This is the current floor plan for the first floor of the Katz building and the first floor of the Langston's building. And so essentially on the left-hand side you've got a gallery as you walk in the door, a very large community room. To the back is a community/computer classroom. As you move over to the right-hand side, which is the Langston's building, several classrooms, student interaction areas, study areas, and so once completed, this first floor will have over 10,000 square feet of room for our students and our programs. And just to finish on the kind of education that we will have at the facility, we really call it a true one-stop center, and that is if students need basic skills, for example, adult basic education, English as a second language, GED, and then the introduction of what we consider to be the most important thing, which is traditional college-level courses, so English, mathematics, science, things that students need to take on their route to a degree, we will offer at this particular facility. We'll do it through a cohort style where students come in, study together as a group, and then they make that transition from this campus to our main campus. We'll have an entrepreneurial academy for new and existing businesses because entrepreneurialism is of course the key to revitalization, and our objective is to ensure that we play a role in people who want to help us revitalize Capitol Hill. So fundamental principles for new and existing businesses. Obviously, it's a business development and retention tool. Curriculum that spans generations. We know that learning is not just encapsulated in one group or one age group, and so in Capitol Hill, all of our programming will encompass from our College for Kids program to programming for our senior citizens as well. And most importantly, providing a community center and a place that folks can gather, whether it's for a town hall meeting, whether it is a meeting of civic organizations. We want to be the entity in Capitol Hill that has the sense of place. And so with that, Mayor, I'm happy to answer any questions on behalf of you or the council.
All right. Any questions for Steve? Yeah, Ed.
I do. First, it's a fantastic project. My mother went to school at Capitol Hill, and we're very excited. This is a great project. I want to ask you, technically and cost-wise, how difficult is it to do that? The rooftop? I mean, you probably will have the best view of downtown. It's a fantastic idea, and I've always thought that could help spur a lot of the adaptive reuse of a lot of those buildings. Is it technically challenging, and how expensive is it to do that?
Councilman Shee, that's a really good question, and it wasn't as challenging as we thought. The price to do that with the additional steel is under $250,000 for the cost of it, but we're removing that entire roof because it needs replaced, and so there will be new roof trusses put in to accommodate that load. So the structural engineering part was not as arduous as we originally thought. We were concerned about the envelope of that facility, whether or not it would handle the additional weight. So during the civil engineering process, we ensured that the building itself was in fact structurally sound to be able to do that. But cost-wise, it is a matter of putting in stronger roof trusses. So overall, in about a $10 million project, give or take, it's an incremental cost. But as you said, it's one that really has a very unique opportunity for Capitol Hill.
Great, thank you. Other questions? Looks like an exciting project. I know the council and I are anxious to see that groundbreaking whenever it's going to be.
Absolutely, and Mayor, we should be in about this time next year, and of course we will be honored to have all of you there when we open the facility. So thank you so much.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Excuse me. On item AR, David Wanzer is here to talk about the Main Street Arcade.
Good morning, Mayor, council members. My name is David Wanzer. I am the developer of the Main Street Arcade building, located at 629 West Main Street. That's okay. While we're getting that pulled up, I would like to thank Brent Bryant and Kathy O'Connor and the TIF advisory panel for working with me on this TIF request. This ad actually ran in the Oklahoman in 1922, trying to rouse investors for this property with promises of a 20% return, so the developers could construct the Main Street Arcade building for a series of 10 storerooms, shops, and 2 upstairs fraternal lodges. They asked 3 simple points to the investor to decide. Do you believe in Oklahoma City? Do you believe in Main Street? And do you have the money to invest? Ironically, I found myself asking the same 3 questions to investors, bankers, and the city almost 100 years later. While the fraternal lodges did not lease the space, Hills Business University did, moving into one of the downstairs bays and the entire second floor in May of 1923, and they were the primary tenant of the building until 1968. The Main Street Arcade building is a 30,000 square foot masonry building built in 1922. This photo shows Hills Business College, their lobby on the easternmost bay of the Main Street Arcade. Hills educated thousands of young men and women throughout the decades in the second floor of the arcade, getting them prepared for various careers in the business world. Some don't look too thrilled to be there, the guy in the lower right in particular. The arcade was also home to the Downtown Baptist Church for many decades, beginning in 1938. Early on, they purchased the building and occupied varying degrees of the building throughout until 2005. They also modernized the ground floor in the 60s, and the property also did house a variety of small businesses on the ground floor, and in the 1970s and 80s, briefly part of the Oklahoma City court system occupied the second floor. It is set empty for almost a decade when we purchased it last January. While neglect had taken its toll, the bones were very good. We bought it believing that it's an important part of Oklahoma City's downtown and Main Street heritage worthy of saving. It really is one of the few remaining buildings downtown that harken back to a different era. So current conditions, this is actually that same lobby space of Hills on the first floor today. The building does have 14-foot ceilings downstairs, floor-to-ceiling transom windows, which we'll be recapturing. Underneath all that dust is a beautiful double terrazzo staircase and terrazzo lobby entrance up to the second floor. Upstairs also enjoys 14-foot ceilings and just wide open spaces and generous, just abundant amount of natural light. We had the property listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 2014, making this project and our rehabilitation eligible for very crucial federal and state tax credits. Butzer Architects and Urbanism, our architects, and Lingo Construction is our contractor. The revitalization of the arcade building is happening just as the west side of downtown is really starting to boom. We're 3 blocks west of Devon Tower, 1 block north of Film Row, and 2 blocks east of the Fred Jones Building, currently undergoing its own historic rehabilitation as it's transformed into the 21C Museum Hotel. Our plan is for a thorough rehabilitation of this property, new mechanical, electrical, plumbing, water, sewer lines, roof, storefront, windows, very extensive and expensive structural modification to meet current code load requirements for the second floor. And we basically intend to make this building ready for its next 100 years of life. The plan is for upstairs office space in the upstairs 15,000 square feet. And true to its original intentions, we'll have a series of small retail bays along Main Street anchored by 2 restaurants. Upstairs office space will be first class with the terrazzo lobby and staircases restored, a new elevator with glass catwalk and glass guardrails, and a central skylight in the double height elevator space. Along with the 2 restaurants, the other retail on the ground floor, there will be there's 2 500 square foot micro bays right off the lobby that will make a very good opportunity for smaller retailers or businesses that can come in at a lower cost point. We expect to begin construction this month and plan to have it occupied with its new tenants by next summer. And I appreciate the opportunity to share this project with you and would entertain any questions.
Do you have any tenants lined up?
We're currently in negotiations with several.
All right.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Looks
Appreciate
like a
it.
good project.
Thank you.
Where will those tenants park? You wanted to be a tenant.
Yeah, so I'm working on securing parking across the street. The police union does have a large amount of parking, as does David and Dennis Box. Currently negotiations with both of them to lease, long-term lease parking from them, and then working on some others parking as well. We actually did a parking study just internally in our office just to count the amount of on-street parking, and there's several hundred on-street parking spaces within a 4-block radius too.
Right. Thanks very much.
Thank you for your time.
It really begins to move you down Main Street, which is, so terrific. We have done a streetscape.
Yeah, absolutely.
About a block long, and this is a tremendous extension. As you noted, as all of this development's beginning to happen west, it really ties Sheridan and Main Street together and makes a really synergistic block, I think. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, looks great.
Thank you, folks.
All right, still on the consent docket. Meg, you wanted to talk about item V?
I did, Mayor. I just wanted to mention, and we do this at the same time, I think, about every year, but the city receives funding from the Department of Housing and Urban Development to help provide homeless prevention, rapid rehousing services, and shelter to homeless persons in our community. And this item allocates those dollars to community health centers, Be the Change, the Homeless Alliance, the YWCA, Red Rock Behavioral Services, Sunbeam Family Services, Upward Transitions, Neighborhood Services, Heartline, City Rescue Mission, and Legal Aid, all of whom do just tremendous work in our community. And I'm grateful for the Social Services Committee, Councilman Shadid and Councilman Greenwell serve on that committee. And I just appreciate the staff's work on this.
All right.
Thank you.
We have a motion second on the consent docket.
I'd wanted to mention, item BJ is a resolution granting us for the third year the Oklahoma Safe Grant, which is focused on the area around 10th Street, and I think that the fact that we've been awarded it for the third year shows that it is having a positive effect, and so I just wanted to mention that and thank everybody who was involved in getting us that grant, that we were successful.
Just two MAPS questions maybe for David Todd. The $600,000 for the Senior Wellness Center, that comes out of the MAPS 3 contingency?
The program contingency, the big contingency.
The Senior Wellness.
Right, and really, the project was delayed for about 2 years, and it actually, because of the problems finding the operator and moving forward on it. So it was 2 years delayed from the project implementation. That's really about 2 years of inflation.
Right. Okay. On BB, the demolition for the Upper Park, does this includes the Film Exchange building?
Well, I struck that earlier. That was struck because we got to get through the DDRC, and we were going parallel paths, and we got one ahead of the other. But that is what that is for, sir.
Okay, so that's struck today.
It was struck today.
Thank you.
All right, ready to vote the consent docket? All right, cast your votes. Passed unanimously. On to the concurrence docket. All right, any individual considerations on the concurrence? All right, cast your votes. Passed unanimously. Puts us on to item 9, which are items that require separate votes. And we'll start with a series of zoning cases. First couple are in Ward 2. First one is an ABC issue at 607 28th Street. Ed?
Did anybody speak for 1 or 2? Did anybody sign up? No. So this passed Planning Commission unanimously, no protests. I would move approval.
Second.
Okay, I can hardly hear you. I was looking to see if your mic was on. Is it on?
Okay, it is.
Okay, maybe they can just boost the speakers in the back. Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. And then item 9A2, and again, it looks like no one has signed up to speak on the ABC issue on 28th Street.
So I'd move approval, same situation.
Okay. Cast your votes. And it passes unanimously. Item 9A3 is a zoning case at Ward 8 at 13336 North Blackwelder. It's currently C3 Community Commercial and O2 General Office, and it would become a new PUD if approved. Mark?
Yeah, this is an ordinance to permit multifamily and a maintenance facility that will be there while this commercial development is ongoing. It's south of Chisholm Creek. It was approved by the Planning Commission. I'm aware of no protests either at the Planning Commission stage or subsequent to this hearing today. I think Mr. Johnson's here if anybody would like to hear about the multifamily project, but it's my understanding that it's going to be similar to what's in Midtown, The Edge. Yeah, I'd move for approval.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We're voting on item 9A3. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item 9A4 is a zoning case in Ward 2 at 3012 North Walker Avenue. It's currently C3 Community Commercial, HL Historic Landmark, and a Jefferson Park Urban Conservation District, and it would all be put into a new simplified plan unit development if approved. Ed?
Did anybody sign up to speak for this? There were. Okay. Thanks.
Good morning. What is your name and address for the record?
Good morning. Kristen Mercer is my name, and my physical address is 1801 Elmhurst Avenue. Good morning. I just want to make sure that we're here to represent this project. We have been working on it for several months, and we were happy to meet with the Historic Preservation Society and walk away with a recommendation from them. And then also with the Planning Commission, we were able to obtain approval for this rezoning. Basically, this has been an art gallery and music venue for several years, and what we're wanting to do is kind of introduce new concepts and redevelop with the option for a wine and beer leisure atmosphere. And so that's kind of what this redevelopment's for, and I just want to make sure I can answer any questions.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Are you right almost at the corner of 30th and Walker?
Correct, yes. We are just on the
Slightly
side,
south
yeah.
on this side. Okay, great, thank you.
Correct.
So you did have some protests. Did you have?
We did, yeah. We worked with, I wouldn't say protests, but there was a lot of concerns with the being within 300 feet of the school, and then especially with the neighborhoods, they'd had their own questions with, bringing into just the wine and beer option. And so we were able to work with parking and then speak with Edgemere for quite some time. We all kind of came to the agreement that a mixed beverage would not be the best option, but the wine and beer would be approved on all parts. So everyone was kind of happy about the project at the end and excited to see what it could bring to the neighborhood.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, I'll move for approval.
Cast your votes. Passed unanimously. Thank you and good luck. Item 9A5 is a zoning case in Ward 5. The address is 13801 South Santa Fe Avenue. It's currently in a SPUD and would be in a new SPUD if it's approved. David?
Thank you, Your Honor. Francis, is there anyone here? This really, while they were initially proposing some modification to the SPUD, when it came down to it, it really, to me, just clarifying some of the federal rules as it relates to limitations on housing areas designed for older individuals. And this change is just allowing up to 20% of the residents to be less than 55 years of age. Is that your understanding, Bob? So a very minor change in the development. So I move for approval.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We're voting on item 9A5. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item 9A6 is a zoning case in Ward 7. It's on West Memorial Road. It's currently a C3 community district, and it would be a new SPUD if approved. John?
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Has anyone signed up? No one seeing no protests. The Planning Commission did approve this item, and it is to allow development of a car dealership, and across the street you have a car dealership, and just to the east of it you also have what was approved for a car dealership. So with that being said, Mr. Mayor, I move for approval.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We're voting on item 9A6. Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9A7 is a zoning case in Ward 4. It's at 700 Southwest 29th Street. It currently has a series of uses, but would all be put into a SPUD if it's approved. Pete?
Yes, is there anyone here to speak on this matter?
Ryan Eshelman, GSB Architects, here on behalf of the owner of First Fidelity Bank. This is a property where they operate an existing bank operation, and the bank would like to better serve those customers and beautify the neighborhood by building a new branch. And it sounded simple. We realized there were 3 zonings on the site, and there's a 100-year-old building setback line that runs right through the existing building. So there were some uniquenesses to the site, required rezoning with this SPUD in order to come back, remove the existing branch, and build a new branch. So I'm happy to answer any questions about this application, but that's the intent, is to build a new branch on the site of an existing branch.
I don't have any question about it. I remember when this bank opened. As I recall, at that time there was only one bank south of the river. This was the second one to open south of the river, and that was in the 50s. So that's when you think about the difference in the way Oklahoma City developed, there were probably 101 banks north of the river, but I think this was the second one south of the river. I move approval.
All right, cast your votes on item 9A7. Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. All right, we're on to item 9A8. It's a zoning case in Ward 6 at 1513 Exchange Avenue. It's currently under a series of uses and being all put into a new SPUD if it's approved, and Meg seems to have checked out of the room. Has anybody signed up to speak? All right, is there anyone here hoping to speak today on item 9A8? Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9A9 is a zoning case in Ward 8 at 17720 Griffin Drive. It's currently R3 medium density, and it would become a new SPUD if approved. Mark?
Thank you, Mayor. This is an ordinance on final hearing to permit the construction of a self-storage facility. I want to thank Debbie Martin, who's had a meeting with some of the neighbors that live in and around the proposed site. And I want to thank Johnston Builders for meeting with those neighbors. We spent a lot of time talking about different things and trying to make sure everybody was comfortable with the project. I don't believe there's anyone here in opposition today, and that being the case, I'd move for approval.
All right, we're voting on item 9A9. Cast your votes. Passed unanimously. And item 9A10 is a zoning case on Plaza Mayor in Ward 4. Pete?
Is there anyone to speak in opposition to this? I'd like to point out something about this. You know, I've, as most of you know, I've not been a big advocate for charter schools, and I especially was not an advocate for the state giving the city the ability to do charter schools. I felt like, and I've always felt like, that the proper entity to determine whether charter schools were around was the Board of Education itself in the district. This is an example of people that wanted to start a charter school. They met with the Board of Education. They jointly agreed that the location they had originally selected for their charter school did not need, in terms of the population, student population balance in the district, didn't need to be where they wanted to put it. They then asked where they could put one, and were told Southeast Oklahoma City was much more crowded, and they agreed to locate it where the need was. And that's, to me, that's the way this ought to work, rather than the other way around. And I wholeheartedly move approval.
All right, we're voting on item 9A10. Cast your votes, and it passes unanimously. Item 9B has been deferred until September 1st. Same story on item 9C. It's been deferred until September 1st. Item 9D has been deferred 2 weeks until August 18th. And the same story for item 9E, which has been deferred until August 18th. Item 9F and G reflect changes in state law to get our codes and regulations in line with what's occurred at the state legislature.
Cindy Richards here to talk about the next 3 items, I believe.
2, 9F and G?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good morning, Mayor, Council. Which one's first, Mayor? I'm sorry.
How about F? This is the one on motor vehicles. This is texting. This texting while driving.
What has happened is that the Oklahoma legislature passed a no texting while driving statute. The legislature specifically included preemptive language in the statute that allows municipalities to enact and enforce an ordinance, but it has to be exactly the same as the statute. And so that's what we've put together here. Basically, it says just about any way that you could sit and type onto a phone or an iPad or that sort of thing is not allowed under this ordinance, except for certain emergency situations. It doesn't prevent you from talking. You're allowed to touch your device essentially one time to enact Siri or OnStar or things like that, but it can't be to type things in, just to get it going. And then if you can speak into the phone to make a phone call or that sort of thing, then you're allowed to do that. So emergencies are accepted out from this ban, and just it's very, very limited. Because of some, shall I say, interesting language in the statute, we've written it up where there's a $100 fine, which is all that's allowed under the statute, and no assessment of any state fees or any of our court costs here. So $100 fine only.
All right. And this item is being introduced today, and we're calling for a public hearing on August 18th. So if anyone would like to come back and address the council on these changes in state law and how we're going to enforce them, that would be the appropriate time to do so. We are set for a final vote on September 1st.
I have a couple questions. Does the state law require us to do this?
No.
To put it in our ordinance? Okay. And then does, if this is passed, can a police officer pull someone over solely for texting?
Yes,
It can, but it's not a secondary, it's a primary.
yes, he could use that as the probable cause for a stop.
Okay.
All right, how about a motion to move 9F forward? Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Then item 9G has to do with changing lanes and signalizing that you're going to change lanes.
Yes. Mayor and Council, we already have an ordinance that talks about 100 feet before you turn at an intersection, you must signal your intent to turn. We also have a current ordinance that says if you're going to change lanes, you have to signal your intent to change lanes. This would add the 100 feet distance to the lane change. So turning on your blinker 100 feet before you decide to change lanes.
All right. I applaud this provision. I question how much we'll try to enforce it, but I think it's a great ordinance to have.
All right, this item is being introduced today, and just like the last issue, we're calling for a public hearing 2 weeks from today. So citizens that have a voice they'd like to express could do so then, and we're set for a final hearing on September 1st. Is there a motion to move this forward?
So moved.
All right, cast your votes. Passed unanimously. Thanks, Cindy. All right, item 9H is a public hearing regarding dilapidated structures. Is there anyone here hoping to speak under any item listed under 9H? All right, how about a motion? Is there a second? Cast your votes. Passed unanimously. 9I is a public hearing regarding unsecured structures. Is there anyone here hoping to speak under any item listed under 9I? All right, how about a motion? Cast your votes. It passed unanimously. Item 9J is a public hearing regarding abandoned buildings. Is there anyone here hoping to speak under any item listed under 9J? All right, we have a motion and a second. We're voting on 9J, and it passes unanimously. Item 9K is a public hearing regarding removal of property from the abandoned building list. Is there a motion here? Okay, is anyone here hoping to speak on this item? All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Then item 9L is a resolution that would approve some revised guidelines for the hotel motel tax. And I see Mike Carrier, who runs CVB, is here. Mike, you want to come and give us a little bit of an explanation on how this is going to work?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, Council. Good to be with you again. The resolution before you is related to the 0.5% event sponsorship portion of the hotel motel tax. The CVB administers that on behalf of the city, and it's now, this provision is about 10 years old now. We came to you about 5 years ago with some revisions, not of the tax, but rather the policies and procedures on how the grants are awarded, trying to clarify things. It was a great program. We've had tremendous success with it. We cleaned it up a little bit. We've had the existing ordinance in place for 5 years, have noted some changes that need to be made to help clarify what we are asking people for, the reason we're asking for that, helping the applicants work through the process more smoothly. And so the changes that you see before you are to continue to improve that process. Does nothing to change the percentage, to change the amounts, anything of that nature, purely procedural changes so that the committee of the Convention and Visitors Commission that reviews these applications will get more and more complete and easier to understand information. Just as an aside to that, for your information, this past year, we typically have that committee meet 3 times a year. This past year, they reviewed 102 applications for funding, 87 for events that were occurring during the fiscal year, 17 that were occurring in the next fiscal year as we prepare to move forward, obviously some of them being right at the beginning of a year. So they see a lot of applications. The more we can do to help clarify the process, to help applicants better understand it, and then on the back end to help get the accountability information to be able to pay those grants out once the event is over, we think that it's something that needs to be done and request your approval of this.
Okay. Any comments or questions from council? All right, Mike, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, how about a motion then on item 9L? Okay, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9M, I understand we do need to go into executive session, discuss our labor negotiations. All right, a motion then on 9M to move that to executive session. Cast your votes. Passed unanimously. Item 9N can be struck from the agenda today. How about a motion to strike? Okay, cast your votes. That item is struck from the agenda. Item 9O is claims recommended for denial. Is there anyone here hoping to speak under any item listed under 9O? Okay, and I'll note at clerk's request that item A has been deferred for 2 weeks. All right, how about a motion then to move the rest of the 9O agenda forward? All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 10A is claims recommended for approval. How about a motion here? Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 11 is items from council, and if you don't mind, I would start by remembering Frosty Peak. Frosty was a Ward 1 councilman from 1993 to 2001, and I attended his services last week. He'd been working the last few years for the city of Yukon, and Frosty gave a lot of his blood, sweat, and tears to this city and this organization, and sat in these chambers for a long, long time, and what were some pretty provocative and growth years for Oklahoma City. So we remember Frosty today. There was a large crowd at the funeral. I was glad to see that. Yeah, go ahead.
And Bill Ware, as a former constable back in the 60s, passed away last week also.
I saw that in the obituaries in the paper, and I didn't know him.
Right.
Yeah.
He was here during the wars over water, back when they were fighting about whether we needed water or not and how to get it. He was a good guy.
All right. We have one item that's been to be introduced today, Councilman Pettis. And Cindy, you're going to kind of explain. This is at John's request, but Cindy's going to give us an explanation.
Yes, Mayor and Council. We met with Councilman Pettis a few weeks ago and ended up with a draft of this ordinance amendment to our disorderly house ordinance, plus our criminal activities public nuisance abatement ordinance. The intent here, there's a couple of issues. One is that disorderly houses are where things are going on inside a property that doesn't normally fit into a bar or tavern kind of definition. And this can happen more often than you think. There are party houses, there are clubs that don't necessarily serve liquor and don't fall into the bar and tavern. So disorderly house is kind of an ordinance that's another tool in the tool belt. Part of what we're doing here is to expand the ordinance to include the outdoor area around such a disorderly house, an open lot essentially. So it would include like parking, rights of way, and that sort of thing. So what we're saying to folks who may have a premises where public is coming in and things get a little rowdy outside, they have to patrol their outdoor area also. They have to maybe light it and secure it and guard it and things like that. So that will stretch that disorderly house ordinance, and the other is the criminal activities public nuisance abatement ordinance. And the amendment that we're doing there is also to talk about this open lot disturbance to include, I should say this ordinance usually does address bars and taverns. Now we're going to open it up a little bit more and include these open lot disturbance violations for drug-related criminal activity and prostitution-related criminal activity, those kinds of things going on outside. Before, what we had in here were kind of violent crime issues out in the parking lot. Now we're going to add drugs and prostitution activities out in the parking lot also. So those are kind of the dual things that are going on to help address some issues that are going on outside of places that don't fall into the definition of bars and taverns.
All right, this item is being introduced today. We'll have a public hearing on August 18th, so we invite members of the public who have an opinion they want to express to come down that day. It is currently scheduled final adoption on September 1st. John, you want to say anything before we move on?
I just want to thank Chief City and also the Municipal Council's office for working on this amendment. My office has received a lot of complaints here recently about different criminal activity at different locations, and oftentimes when the vice unit goes out to these different type of establishments, oftentimes their hands are tied because of different things. And so this would allow, for example, the vice unit to do what they need to do to make sure different areas that they are working in are in fact safe. And I am going, when it comes in front of the final hearing, ask for the emergency, because in my view, this is a health issue. This is a safety issue. This past weekend, one of the establishments that has been a concern to the police department, somebody got shot this weekend. So in my view, this would help Chief City and his officers deal with some things that's going on.
Yeah, potentially another tool for our police officers in the field.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, Cindy, thanks for your work on this.
Thank you.
Items from council. James, you want to say anything? We need a motion. Oh, I'm sorry. We need a motion to move item 11A forward. All right, cast your votes. That item moves forward to get a public hearing in 2 weeks. James?
I just want to echo what you said about Frosty Peak. He initiated a relationship with me just to be helpful and offer his advice. He was a really friendly guy. I wasn't able to attend his funeral because I was out of town, but I just wanted to wish my condolences on his family. Also, I wanted to mention that the issue I have talked about quite a bit is the Lantana Apartments. It's been in the news again. It's had another fire. There's actually been 2 fires there in the last 3 weeks. It's a ongoing problem, and I just want to assure that the city is doing as much as we think that we can do for it, and we are continually talking about it and continually trying to solve the problem. And so I don't know if necessarily we can actually solve the problem all by ourselves. So I just wanted to mention that again and to just bring that back to these abandoned apartment complexes. It's a real eyesore for a lot of neighborhoods, and this one is the one that's seems to get the most media attention. So.
Yeah. You bring up a good point, because I was going through some of the deep data on our citizen survey, and our code enforcement still seems to be of a great concern to our citizens. And I look at the list of all the properties we're addressing every council meeting, and it seems like we're doing more than we've ever done, and yet our citizens seem to be asking for more and higher levels of attention. So I don't know how we address that from a budget standpoint, but it sounds like even though we're putting more resources into it, we probably ought to continue to put even more and have even longer lists on the council agendas, because it seems to be not just in one pocket of the city, but all over the city, and it's not one thing. It's a variety of things.
Yeah, and I talked to a guy yesterday that basically told me that he thought that the city is not enforcing our code on this property. And the reason that he thought that is because the grass is always about 3 or 4 feet tall, right next to the street. And I told him that we are enforcing the code. It's just the fact that whenever a single-family home gets a citation that says you need to mow your grass, well, that property owner usually comes out and mows their grass in the next 2 or 3 days. So it looks like we're enforcing it. But this property owner is not doing that whenever they get a citation. So it has to go through the entire cycle. And so I think a lot of the code enforcement issues that people perceive, it's more of a perception than an actual problem. But
Yeah. Is there a way to speed up due process on high grass? Because it does seem by the time it gets through our system, it's kind of silly.
Right.
Once it gets high enough to start the process, it's already, what, a foot high?
Yeah, state law pretty well dictates what we can do as far as notice provisions on
It's just a 10 days notice on high weeds and grass, but then we have to get someone to mow it out there.
Yeah, but we can't even start until it's a foot high. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
10 days. No,
it's 12. It says 12 inches.
So I can understand if someone said they're not enforcing that. If I saw that, I would assume the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Jim, I think I heard on that news article that it was the estimated cost to demolish it was $1 million. Have we added up how much money we've already spent to just abate complaints? I mean, it's got to be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, I would think.
On that property, it's about $78,000
Okay.
is how much all the fines and fees are accumulated.
Since we've started charging fines and fees, but
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know how far that goes back, but that's the amount that's on their lien.
yeah.
The cost of, what, 15 firemen, 15 fires?
Yeah, right, and
I just wonder
that's
if
just
that
that's a
thing,
new
because that thing is such a problem. I've had complaints, and I live 100 miles from there. I mean, I know some people that live fairly close, and they call me. I mean, it's kind of an iconic problem. I mean, it's just
I live a half a mile from it, so you can imagine.
So I wonder if we couldn't just use it as an example and ask for, in a couple of weeks, just a kind of a presentation about that particular problem. That's kind of a good case study. I mean, it's difficult to do. What are we doing? What could we do? Is there a policy change we might make to speed that up? I think Meg makes a good point. At some point, the amount of money that it costs is going to be consumed by the amount of money we're spending. I mean, especially when the kind of off-the-books kind of costs, like cost of fire and the disruption of the water that the firemen use. I mean, that's just all eventually, and then it's depressing on that neighborhood, the economic impact on that neighborhood. Maybe that's a good one to do a case study on.
School district.
Let's figure out what to do.
Yeah. Pete, your idea of creating a case study out of that is great. I would just say take that a step further. If we could somehow find a vehicle to share that with our state legislatures, in a forum like we always allow the public to come out and speak to us, if the state legislature would allow a similar type of a process, and we as a city could go and make presentations to them as far as, some of their statutes preventing us from addressing these kinds of problems, I think would be helpful. At least it would allow us to share our concerns in a public forum.
My concern about this particular location is, and it probably applies to all kinds of them all over the city, is that maybe there's something in our policy that we could change. Maybe there's something that the 9 of us could decide to do. I don't know what that is. I think that our staff does a good job. I don't have any reason to think they're not doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. But it may be there's something in our policy or in our ordinances or that's not prohibited by state statute that we could speed this kind of thing up. Del City had to take one down over there. They ended up, I don't know what it cost them, but I suspect they're not sorry they did it, because that one there at I-35 and I-40, on I-40 just east of I-35 on the south side there, they ended up took that thing down. And like I said, I bet they're not sorry.
And when they took the apartment complex down, they then came back in with a economic development plan. I think they created a TIF or something to do some commercial and retail development. So that's what they are doing now.
Just a thought.
Okay. Where are we over here, Ed?
So I also wanted to mention something that's been a flurry of articles in the news, which is the county jail. Before I do that, I wanted to just briefly respond. I think Kenny sent an email to everyone in response to my query 2 weeks ago about the gift disclosure, where I asked, theoretically, could someone give funds to my business? Would I have to declare that? Kenny said I would. Ben yesterday, after reviewing the city's policy, said I wouldn't because the city's policy doesn't mention businesses. at a time when we have ex-presidents like Jimmy Carter last week referring to America as an oligarchy with unlimited political bribery, referring to Citizens United and the unlimited, undisclosed amounts of anonymous money that are coming in at every branch of government throughout the country, I would just urge us to take a look at our gift disclosure policy that would allow, and maybe think not of us, but people on the council 20 years from now. Does it make sense that 20 years from now, people on the council, if they took in $200 in donations, would have to declare that, but somebody could give $200,000 or $2 million or unlimited funds as long as they gave it to a business or an LLC, or I suppose you could form a 501c3, anything outside of just giving it to them personally. That loophole makes our gift disclosure policy basically meaningless, and I just urge us to take a look at that loophole. In terms of the county jail, that flurry of articles that we've seen recently is causing me a great deal of fear and apprehension, and I think what's unnerving to me is there's really no response. It has so much implications for the city of Oklahoma City. We're the #1 client for the county jail. We are the only state in America that cities can't access property tax to fund things like police, and so tapping the sales tax would have tremendous implications, but there's no response from mayor, council, city manager, police chief, district attorney, well, he's in the county, but no response from the city. No response from the DOJ. I think there's a lot of fear about the DOJ taking over the county jail or intervening, which I don't think are accurate. I think 90% of the DOJ's concerns were policies and procedures and the lack of manpower at the jail. And I think those have been addressed. And I think the risk of DOJ seizure or intervention, I think, is relatively low. So the idea that something might be called by this August 13th deadline that was mentioned, 9 days from now, that an election might be called with almost no public deliberation causes me fear and no discussion. I think part of that, the quietness is a feeling that this couldn't happen or it wouldn't happen, that without the chamber's support or the city, that this wouldn't happen. But looking back, it unnerves me that Sheriff Wetzel and the county have tried to raise funds to have an election without the chamber's support, to just do it unilaterally. There's a history of unilateral action, and that wasn't received very well. The public resoundingly responded negatively, but there is a history of unilateral action even without the chamber or anybody else's support. So the idea that something might happen in 9 days causes me fear, and I think we should at least have a discussion. And I would want the constituents of Ward 2 and the city to know really 3 things. One is that you can't consider the county jail and a half-cent sales tax that would go in perpetuity for operations and maintenance in a vacuum. It would tremendously impact one of my highest priorities, which is transit or regional transit authority, or if you want to do maps for neighborhoods, or at a time of economic uncertainty, whatever the city wanted to do, sales tax is really our primary vehicle. And to do that, you need to consider not just the county jails, but also what the city might need, and there needs to be interplay between the two levels of government that I don't think has been there. A half-cent sales tax for operations and maintenance would be $60 million a year, which on top of the $30 million that is already budgeted for the county jail, some $90 million. I'm not sure why we're not seeing some itemized list of what is being proposed to be spent with this $90 million. Second is that you can't just look at the jail without some kind of comprehensive reform, the kind that people like Chris Steele and others have been talking about for a long time. You've got to make investments to deal with the drug and alcohol issue in the city. You've got with mental health. You have to talk about those things and make those investments at the same time. And we could start here on the Horseshoe with a budget of $121,000 out of $1 billion for social services. I mean, it really starts here. But we can't expect not to make those kind of investments at the city and state level and impact the situation at the jail. And then third, and maybe most important, is duplication of services. It feels like, and I personally like Sheriff Wetzel very much. We're both on the board of the Single Parent Network, and I enjoy all my conversations with him, but it feels very much like there's an effort to create a duplicitous police force with that extra $60 million. And there's, I think it's very important for the citizens to understand that very few people live in unincorporated territory from the county, and the rest live within municipalities, and they have police services. Obviously, we have a damn good one in our city, and if we have deficiencies, you would think that you would raise those funds and apply that to our police force. But to have a duplication of services with a half-cent sales tax, as regressive as that kind of tax is on the poor, where it should have a maximum amount of transparency and public deliberation, it just seems like there's been almost none. And the idea that you could have an election called 9 days from now causes me a great deal of apprehension. Thanks.
Ed, may I follow up on Ed's comments? Because I do think it deserves more attention than what we've given so far. And I agree with what you said, Ed. A couple of points, though. The thing that disturbs me is the lack of innovative thinking on the county's part. There are other ways to address those problems. Now, maybe they've done it. They've just not shared that with the public. And so I criticize them for failing to disclose all the alternatives that they looked at, one, for funding, and then secondly, to how other alternatives to address that problem. And then secondly, it's, everybody's on this bandwagon as far as pointing fingers at the state, but a large portion of the problem is related to mental health issues that are being forced by the local communities to be addressed. And I think a large portion of that responsibility falls back on the state, and they're ignoring it. Now, their normal response is, well, we're in a budget crisis, we can't address those kind of issues. Again, lack of innovation, lack of thinking as to how they could come out of those difficult times. The city could have said the same things back in the very early 90s when the idea of a MAPS program was originated. We could have just sat back and said, there's nothing we can do. We didn't choose to take that approach, and I'm critical of the county and the state for apparently taking the same kind of an attitude that, well, we can't do anything about it.
And I guess if I take a little bit of exception to say that there's been no reaction. I'd be curious if anybody else has been on a tour of the jail yet, but I did do that on Thursday. It was honestly one of the nastiest places I've ever been in my life. It's a really difficult situation, and I'm concerned that the risk of DOJ doing something is a little bit more severe. Something needs to be done, and I think this is the perfect opportunity to talk about consolidating services and looking at how we might be able to collapse maybe police enforcement. I mean, it's my understanding that the sheriff is chartered to basically do two things: run the jail and serve warrants. And this is time to take a look, because if the citizens are going to be asked to pony up one way or the other, sales tax penny or property taxes, which could happen to us. And Ed, I would agree that the regressive nature of a sales tax is a problem, but if the DOJ decides to put this tax bill on our citizens for 3 years, that has a huge impact on families in this community, and I just don't think we can let that happen. So I think we need to seize the moment to make some big changes.
One of the things that Oklahoma City has done, it kind of went unheralded this last budget session, but we've reduced the amount of money that we pay for jail time at the county by almost $500,000, $420,000 reduction, because we looked at who we were locking up. And we decided we were locking up people that didn't need to be locked up. We were locking people up because they were poor or because they were mentally ill. And our bill to them last year was $420,000 less than it had been the previous fiscal year. It almost seems to me that they're in that kind of maybe 80s mentality of the way you fight crime is lock everybody up that commits a crime. Well, we've had, 40 years of that, and it's not working. We've got, and I think if the state continues to withdraw from the kinds of services that make that, the city's going to have to expand its. I'm not advocating that we do it. I liked the system before where the state took care of those kind of problems. But if they don't take care of them, and they continue to believe that the best answer for state government is to reduce taxes and reduce services. And especially when you're talking about reducing services as serious as mental health services, we're going to have to step up. I mean, we're going to be inundated with that problem if we just ignore it. Now, maybe that's a temporary thing. Maybe a year or two from now they'll come to their senses and start to fund DMH in a way that we can start to seek some resolution to that problem. But if they don't, over the long pool, it seems to me the city's going to have to seriously look at getting into to an area where this city has never wanted to be into, and that's the social services area. I just don't know how you can continue to reduce funding for that when it's it's almost epidemic in terms of the drug-related mental illness. I mean, we're talking about people that are mentally ill that are medicating themselves by drugs, and it's a vicious circle. It just goes on and on and on. And it's driving jail costs up, basically, because we've got people in jail who don't need to be in jail. They need to be someplace else where they can get some help somehow. And I think it's going to take, over the next year or so, we're going to have to do some serious rethinking about what our response will be to that. Because I don't think we can ignore it. I don't, the jail situation to me is another thing that caused me to just kind of scratch my head is that part of the problem was it was too crowded. Well, the state decided to take all the people out. You remember that about a year ago? And the county just was upset because the revenue source was cut. Well, if your problem is overcrowding, it's pretty difficult for me to have much sympathy for when somebody reduces the overcrowding for you. I mean, I just think that we've kind of lost our way with regard to what criminal justice is all about. And I'm glad to see people like Representative Kluger talk about doing away with some of the things that keep people in jail longer than they need to be. This mandatory minimum sentencing thing sounds good on paper, but it's not good. It's not good. It keeps people in jail longer than they need to be in jail. I mean, if we go back to some kind of a theory that jail is for as much for punishment, as much for restoration of people as it is for punishment, we might be on our way to trying to solve that. But I don't know. This jail question is going to be a big one, and I'm not so sure that we can ignore it. I guess we can ignore it corporately. The city doesn't have to take a position, but I would think that each of us individually are going to have to decide how we feel. I don't live in Oklahoma County, so I don't get to vote. So, but nor does David. We can talk with impunity, right?
Well, you look just down south to Norman, and how Cleveland County and the city of Norman addressed their problems. You know, they didn't make it they just addressed it, corrected the issue, and now have a very nice facility down there.
Just to be clear for the public, there's really two issues. It's a 1-cent sales tax, but half of that is for the jail and the issues with the jail. The other half is for operations and maintenance that would just go on indefinitely. And no one has told us to date what that half-cent, that extra $60 million, perhaps on top of the $30 million that they already spend for the jail, and supposedly if you built a new jail it would be more efficient with less maintenance costs, but why is it that you need a 1/2-cent sales tax, an extra $60 million on top of the $30 million? What are you going to spend that money on? And that, to date, we've heard nothing itemized about how that money would be spent. Would any of it be for mental health? I think that's just incredible that we've gotten this far and there's no itemized list. This is the second committee that has been formed and studied this issue. Again, no representation from the Oklahoma City Police Department on that committee, no representation that I know of from the city of Oklahoma City, and no itemized listing of what you would need a 1/2 cent for maintenance. It's not for the jail. It's for maintenance and operations of the sheriff's department. Thanks.
Larry?
Let's shift gears a little bit and bring what I consider some good news to the table after listening to this. Last night, the Musgrave-Pennington Neighborhood Association had their meeting under their new president, Ryan Lurch. And at that meeting, he did something that I think should be modeled by all neighborhood associations. He went through a little exercise and involved every attendee there to first list their 3 biggest priorities that they had for improving their neighborhood. And you had to do that in 5 words or less. And you could not get involved, not that there's any rhetoric going on up here at the Horseshoe this morning, but you could not get into any rhetoric. All you could do was share the 5 words. Once you shared those five words, three items, you put them on a little piece of paper, and he put them up on the wall, little sticky notes up on the wall, and then he had all the attendees arrange those items of concern under headings of priorities. And then when he did that, he then constituted an offer to get somebody to chair, like a safety committee, for handling those issues that are involved in safety, somebody for traffic, for those items that are involved in traffic, community involvement, those items involved in community involvement. And when he came out of there, he didn't solve every problem in that neighborhood, but he did get one committee with 5 volunteers to attack one of the areas. And I thought, that's what it's all about, getting the citizens involved, taking it one step at a time. And so my hat's off to Ryan Lurch and to the folks at Musgrave Pennington for a great example of how citizens coming together, thinking outside the box, not being locked in, can come up with ideas to move this city forward. Thank you, Your Honor.
Pete, anything else?
Just to comment on the groundbreaking yesterday of the new courts building. It's going to be a great thing. It's good turnout. People there, saw a lot of judges, people I hadn't seen in a long time. It's a good event.
Agreed. David? All right, Meg?
Mayor, just briefly, I had a chance to pick up the Salt Lake Tribune yesterday, and front page article was titled "Smart Designs Boost Downtown Street Life." And there was just some great commentary that talked about downtown Salt Lake City streets with design elements such as ground floor windows, outdoor dining, courtyards, and distinct building features are drawing more pedestrians, according to a new study. In the first analysis of its kind in a mid-sized U.S. city, University of Utah researchers studied 179 street segments downtown, tying the number of sidewalk passerbys in half-hour periods with a wide array of urban design features along each block. The study that was published in the peer-reviewed Journal of Urban Design found a direct and measurable link, that's my favorite thing, direct and measurable link between higher pedestrian counts and key design qualities, most notably the density of buildings and the level and mix of activity on their ground floors. More subtle aspects of design, such as the size of exterior windows on a building's first floor, the spaces created by setbacks from curb, and easily recognizable exterior features on facades, were also tied to increased walkability. It's what we're trying to do, and it just really was validating to have those numbers. Great article in the paper. I was going to try to get a hold of the whole study so we could take a look at it, and I just thought it was terrific information.
It is, yeah. John? All right, Mark?
Just briefly, I'd like to mention Berta Faye Rex, who passed away recently. She and her husband, John, lived a long time in Ward 8, and Berta Faye and John were notable community leaders who were passionate about improving education in Oklahoma City. Berta Faye was bright, she was witty, she was a lot of fun, and she will be missed.
All right, city manager reports.
We're going to start out with a David Todd presentation on the River Rapids, the Whitewater facility. We were planning on going on a tour, but one, it's kind of hard to get down there. They got to have four-wheel drive vehicles, kind of just bad access. And the first week of August probably isn't the best time to do that. So David's got another spin on that this morning. So let's let David.
Right, we'll just bring the project to you instead of taking you to the project. Hopefully, maybe later this year we can go down there. So just to orient everybody and those watching on TV, remember that the Whitewater facility is right there in the corner in the boathouse area next to the canal and right along the river, and you can see this early rendition of that. And then zooming up, there's two channels that flow west, and then the return channel there on the bottom, which we refer to as the bottom pool. And this is very representative of what we have out there now. And then the isometric that we we've used in the preliminary report and that you've seen many times represents the facility. So here's an aerial that we took with a drone. The consultant that we have has this drone, and they've been taking periodic pictures. And you're looking to the northeast, and you can see the new building there in the foreground, the main building, and then the channel's taking shape. And you can see on the right side there against the river is the bottom pool where the pump house is, and then moving left of that is the competition channel and then the recreational channel. That the competition channel looks like it's concrete poured all the way, but that's really just a visqueen that's in there. We're about a third of the way up that channel, as you'll see here in a minute. And then another view looking back to the northwest. So this is as if you were walking into the site, as if you were walking out of the parking lot and into the facility, and you can see the building taking shape there on the right, and you can see all the channel that's been poured, remembering that that'll be full of water and it won't look quite so deep at the time. This is another rendering that we've used in many reports, and what I did yesterday is went out and took a picture in that same spot so you can see how that's taken shape. We just don't have the flowers in yet. You can see how the building has got its sheathing on, and then on the left it's starting to really take shape with the metal cladding that goes on the building. So it'll be white like the rest of the boathouses down in that area. And again, another rendering that's been used in the reports. This is the rafting building, and after you get your ticketing and get changed and ready to go, you'll go to this building for orientation, and then you'll receive paddle, helmet, flotation device, and then if you're going to go on the raft, you'll get in the raft right there. And this is that building as it is right now. There's still some dirt that needs to be brought in as it continues, but you can see the structural steel is up. And another view looking the other direction. These pictures were all taken late last week or yesterday. Another view of the competition channel rendering. This is if you were standing on the bridge. There's a bridge from the ticketing main building that goes over to the island, and then from the island over across the other channel. I couldn't get quite right to that spot, but you can see the bridge that's in the channel, and as soon as they finish that abutment, it'll be placed right on that upper right side. You can see the abutment there, but that's about the same view as that rendering. Moving along through the bottom channel and up against the rafting building that I described, this is the long ramp where if you're going to be in the rafting, remember there's kayaks and rafts, so if you're going to be in the rafting part of the experience, you'll go down this ramp to get into the water. Another shot of the lower pool. You can see that the pump house is taking shape. The diaphragms are visible over there, and each one of those has one of the pumps in it, and then the structure is continuing on up, so the dirt work that will be done back there in that area will go almost as high as what you see that formwork right now. So there's still a lot of dirt work back in that area that continues. And another view of that lower pool. You can see there's a lot of areas for viewing that not only make the whitewater happen, but also allow places for people to watch. This is getting close down by the pump house, looking back to the west. And again, another view of the pump house. Moving on to the far east side of the facility, you're standing about where the kayak building will be, and that's if you're going to be on a kayak, you'll enter the water there. Right where that crane is, that again still needs to be filled up to almost to the top of those forms with dirt, and then that upper pool will be built. And that's where the water will be pumped into that pool, and then it will distribute into those two channels. Here's a shot of the channel work that's going on. You can see those little stripes in the concrete. That's where that unistrut is. That, if you remember me talking about, that's where the rapid blocks connect to. There's a bolt that goes down into those. So they're filled with rubber right now, so the concrete doesn't get in them. But that'll be pulled out, and then it'll have the ability to move those rapid blocks in two directions, along the channel, and then you can build them further out. So we have a model now, obviously, of how we want to build it so that it works, that say in 10 years we decide we want a whole new facility, we can reconfigure all the rapid blocks in there, and it'll be a whole new whitewater experience. Or as the Olympians come in, you can add some rapid blocks and change those and tweak it a little bit, if you will. Another shot of the ongoing construction. You can see over there on the left how much steel is in the bottom of those channels, and the walls are being formed. And again, another shot of ongoing construction. I believe that's the recreational channel. And this really gives you an idea also of how all that's formed, all the steel that's in it, and then that heavier looking steel on the top is the unistrut that helps, or that holds the rapid blocks. Another close-up shot of the main building. Remember, the main building has in it the offices for the operations. It has the ticketing facilities. It has locker rooms. It has restrooms. It has a pro shop. And it also has a restaurant in it, and that's just on the first floor. There's a second floor that's been shelled out, and it can be remodeled at a later point for events or whatever they might decide to do out there. Kind of a closer view of that metal siding that's going on the building. You can see all the windows that are available for the views. I was out there yesterday. The views are fantastic, either from, if you want to sit in that restaurant, you can see out onto the river, or you can see back to the whitewater facility, and it's just fantastic. And this is some of the work that's going on. You can see there quite a ways with the mechanical systems, the electrical systems, the plumbing systems in that main building. This is the conveyor system that was purchased and given to the contractor. And remember, as you in that lower pool, to get up to the upper pool, there's a large conveyor belt, just like if you were at the grocery store, but it's much larger. It's been delivered and should be constructed and placed where it will go in the next 45 to 60 days. But it is there. The filtration units are in storage. Some of the rapid blocks are here. A lot of things going on. One thing we did with the consultant's ability to use this drone, we went ahead and did a video of the facility, and this will eventually go out to our website and be available to the public. So I'd like to just sit back and let you watch this.
The development at the Oklahoma River has changed the landscape of Oklahoma City. Momentum continues with MAPS 3, which includes River Sport Rapids, a world-class whitewater facility that will anchor the existing river sport adventures in the Boathouse District. This construction tour will highlight the major features and layout of the course. We'll start at the west entrance. To the left of the SkyTrail will be an extension of the 6th Street parking lot, which will add more than 100 parking spaces. Here you'll see rough grading for the reconstructed Phillips Avenue, which will be a drop-off lane and entrance gate for patrons. The facility's main building is on the right, which will house offices, a pro shop, a restaurant, and ticketing area. This is where your whitewater experience will start. Here's the west end of the bottom pool, which includes a stage funded by the Rotary Club of Oklahoma City. This area will host concerts and events with a nearby viewing area including steps and terraces, allowing patrons access to the water's edge. On the right, the rafting building's structural steel is complete and work on the roof has begun. Here you'll see the bottom pool, access ramp, and raft docking area. This is where rafters will receive their equipment, go through orientation, and board their rafts. At this point, guided rafts will head east to the conveyor system, which will transport the rafters up to the top pool. two-story structure on the left is the pump station, which will be capable of pumping nearly 500,000 gallons of water per minute, which could fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool in 80 seconds. The area to the right of the pump station is the mechanical and treatment area. This area will be capable of recirculating, filtering, and treating the entire 9 million gallon water volume in under 12 hours. Here we see the top pond, which is where the rafts will exit the conveyor. When complete, it will be 21 feet higher in elevation than the bottom pool and will extend eastward to the kayak building. The kayak building extends another 44 feet to its peak, making it a prominent feature from I-35. As we turn back west, you see trucks driving on what will be 5th Street, which will eventually connect to Lincoln Boulevard. Here we see where the top pool will feed into the recreational channel on the right and the competition channel on the left. The area between the channels will be elevated and landscaped as an informal seating area for spectators to watch rafting, enjoy concerts from Rotary Point Stage, and other events. On the left, you can again see the main building. The building elevations will be covered in matching white metal shingles. These finishes will also be used on the rafting and kayak boathouses. This is the west end of the site where the two channels connect at the end of the course. From here, rafters will paddle east and either repeat the course or return their raft at the boathouse. This completes the construction site tour of Riversport Rapids. For more information on this and other MAPS 3 projects, visit okc.gov/MAPS3.
Very nice. David, do you have a completion date that you want us to hold you to?
Well, we do have a completion of the main part, what we call the base part of the course, which is everything except that kayak building of mid-February, and then late March, everything should be completed. And that was because we VE'd that out, but then we were able to add that back in, so it went in kind of later as a change order.
Is the USOC comfortable with that?
I believe so.
Deadline?
Yeah, we stay in constant touch with Mike Knopp.
Okay. Any other comments or questions for David?
Your Honor, just a comment, kind of personal one. A week ago, yesterday, Boston officially withdrew its plans to host the 2024 Olympics, and perhaps if we just sent some of this information to the city of Dallas, it would encourage them to reconsider their bid, because currently the Olympic Festival is considering Los Angeles and San Francisco as the two main sites to host the 2024 Olympics. But with our facility for rowing and kayaking, it would just make sense for Dallas to reconsider their bid. And, with the facilities they have there for all the other events, with the two universities in the general area, TCU, SMU, the Dallas Cowboy facilities, the Cotton Bowl, all the facilities they have, we could certainly supplement that. And I don't think they would incur as much costs as, say, Boston or some of these other locations would, especially from the water sports that we could host up here, since we've already got the facility pretty well completed. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, David. Anything else? All right. David, thank you.
Thanks.
Brian Mon was to give his report, but he spoke earlier in the meeting. So we have Keith Angier here from MacArthur and Associates, who's going to give us an update on the Boulevard project, the ODOT project. Eric's probably going to fill in a couple of gaps.
Good morning, Mayor, members of the council. Brian Taylor with the Oklahoma Department of Transportation wasn't able to make it, so he asked me to make a brief presentation on his behalf. There we go. The Oklahoma City Boulevard is a component of the I-40 crosstown relocation, and it, as you can see from the map there, it's one of the components of many of the crosstown as it was relocated out of downtown Oklahoma City. The I-235, I-35 interchange there on the east is, sorry if I'm getting my components out of line there. This portion involves the ramps and the construction that you see going on the east end of downtown. ODOT anticipates that project will be completed here in September of 2015, here in the next few months. Get my slides going. The components that are just south of the Bricktown area, that will be completed in the fall of 2016, and it is connected with the portion that is just to the west of the railroad tracks there on the BNSF, just west of Bricktown. That portion, that has a maximum, they'll reach their maximum incentive on the E.K. Gaylord portion of that coming up in October of 2015.
When will it land at Oklahoma? When will you have that construction?
That portion is the portion that's immediately south of the Bricktown area.
Yeah.
That should be completed in September of 2015, here in the next few months.
Okay.
That portion will...
Well, I noticed it's still up in the air.
I'm sorry.
Literally. But you'll have the landing to Oklahoma, and it'll be accessible from the south end of Bricktown in October?
Yeah, I apologize. I had my dates here wrong. That is fall of 2016.
Okay.
That will have that portion. The ramps that you see coming over the canal, those should be near completion in September of this year.
Right. Okay, so then it'll be an accessible on-ramp by a year from now, or a little over a year from now.
That's correct.
Okay, thanks.
That portion that's just immediately south of the Bricktown area, there to Oklahoma, that'll be in late 2016.
Okay.
That's integral with that portion that's going to go underneath the railroad there and interconnect with the E.K. Gaylord portion. And then E.K. Gaylord is anticipated to be at its maximum incentive, and the contractor anticipates that he'll reach that incentive to have E.K. Gaylord back open later this year. So those are all tied in, and hopefully that'll reestablish some of that connection that you're missing right now on E.K. Gaylord.
Right. So just to make sure, you say you're going to have E.K. Gaylord back open within a year, this year?
Yes. They've pushed that portion of it forward. They can't complete the boulevard underneath the railroad until they get the railroad bridge, obviously, in place.
Right.
And that'll take a significant amount of time. But they're trying to advance the portion of E.K. Gaylord to get that reopened.
That would be a big help.
Yes.
Okay.
The center section, that portion that runs between E.K. Gaylord and Western, that one's going to be divided up into two separate portions. That's under design right now. Right now we're focusing on that portion of Walker to E.K. Gaylord so that advances that one, and that'll be ready for construction or ready to be bid in 2016, early 2016. That portion from Walker to Western, that second portion that's over on the west side of downtown, that's anticipated to be ready for construction in late 2016. The west end is currently open. That's been open for traffic since 2013. It was actually quite nice whenever I was looking at fastest ways to get into downtown. They recognized that the boulevard, that portion coming from the west side of downtown is one of the quicker ways to get into the area. We have some renderings that are a result of the public meeting that was held to establish some of the configuration, the much discussion about how the boulevard should look downtown and the lane configurations. This is a rendering of a concept looking east from Robinson back towards the Bricktown area, showing that the portion just immediately north of the park and the street side parking, 4-lane configuration. This portion...
Please go back there a second, if you would.
Sorry?
Go back. So you notice there's no boulevard in that area. There's no center part of it. And originally ODOT and our staff had put a boulevard in there, but with consultant with the planners and the parks designers, it was thought best to take that boulevard out so there could be events that would you could pull the park out for special events and such into that street area. So that was intentionally, that was a change, and that was intentionally put in to further enhance the functionality of the park.
Thank you.
That's just an area where we started in one direction, and public input and other designers and planners came in, and we made modifications to accommodate that.
Jim, I think the renderings that I've seen related to connecting the park to the other site had, decorative concrete, though, walkways identified in the streetway, things that dressed it up a little bit more as a plaza, if you would.
I think we're still putting those.
Are we still working towards some of that?
Touches on. It might be a good time to mention that in the GEO bond program of 07, we do have dollars involved to enhance the boulevard. And so ODOT's going to do some base package, and the city will enhance that with $3 million of...
Yes, so as Mr. Engineer continues to present and disclose some of the completion dates, we're working very closely with the ODOT transitions of the project over to Oklahoma City. So this ultimately is going to be a city street. So we're providing a lot of the details, and Councilwoman, yes, you're exactly correct. There's some details not shown on these drawings that you see today, and they continue to work with the MAPS 3 subcommittees for the park, with the MAPS 3 process for the streetcar, and there is anticipated to be a mid-block type crossing there between Hudson, near Harvey, actually, right about where Harvey crosses. The trees that you see in here, as the city manager mentioned, all those are going to be provided by Oklahoma City, and that's for the entire length of the boulevard. We've actually just issued this week from Oklahoma City an advertisement for landscape architects to go ahead and start receiving the drawings that have been completed by ODOT to start that design process. Again, once the street's complete, the irrigation systems are in, we can then start those trees. And this may change a little bit with the landscape architectural contract too. So just realize these are concept drawings, and we'll bring additional drawings soon.
My recollection is certainly that we saved a bunch of money by shortening the bridge and shrinking the roadway down to 4 lanes from 6 and doing some things that certainly hopeful that we can apply some of those dollars to.
And the comments around walkability, yes, the sidewalks and all the hardscapes and the things adjacent to the actual boulevard as a transportation method. It includes pedestrian access. It includes the retaining walls to make sure that we've got ADA accessibility. It also includes enhancing the intersections, much like you see here on this concept, to match those already in downtown. We're also using a lot of the same lighting systems that we've seen on Project 180 to complement the area and to make it consistent. So all of those things you can expect as a part of the final outcome once the city is able to take its part of the contracting once ODOT completes.
Just one comment. I would caution, I hope we make this as beautiful of a street or boulevard as possible, but I would caution some of the dollars that were spent along Southwest 44th Street at intersections like at Walker and Western. I've received more complaints about, one, they just haven't held up as far as the aesthetics of it, and why put money into something like that? So I would just caution on some of the possible things you might want to do with regards to
And I think to address those, Councilman, we are looking at the coloring of concrete more specifically. On Southwest 44th Street, we used a lot of shades of red, and they have faded. In the downtown areas, and what we're also now starting to use on Northwest 23rd Street, are more patterns of gray, which are less resistant to fading and sun bleaching. So we have made some changes since our streetscape on 44th.
Thank you.
Okay. So the trees would have come out of the $3 million. The trees and the landscaping come out of the $3 million.
Right. So they're bond funds that we were able to identify that are in the area that were part of the South Downtown streetscaping. We actually had a couple of dedicated projects, one for E.K. Gaylord and one for Oklahoma Avenue connection that was mentioned earlier, that are also going to be helpful in contributing to part of that $3 million for the landscaping. Yes.
So ODOT just puts the road in, and then the rest is up to...
Yeah, and that was early on agreed as a part of the city partnership with ODOT.
All right. You want to continue?
Very good.
Yeah.
This continues on. This is the intersection at Walker and the new boulevard. You can see that the 4-lane configuration as we move further to the west. We've added some crossings there at Chartel. This is the intersection of the new boulevard and Reno. And then the bridge, as you mentioned, Councilman Salyer, there at Western, and we've shortened that up to make it less impactful to the area. This is another image looking to the east, going over the Western Street area as you come into the downtown. The overall schedule that we talked about just briefly at the very beginning, you can see that there are concurrent projects that are going on simultaneously to advance this project as quickly and as effectively as possible. The Walker to Western portion will be the latter portion. That'll start construction in late 2016. The other portions you should see completing during the duration of 2016. And with that, I'll open for any questions.
All right. Questions? We have 1,000, so I don't know that we want to get started on it, but it's obviously a project that takes a lot of coordination, and thank you for working with our city staff and letting us make this street the best it can be.
I do appreciate the opportunity to work with the MAPS office as well as the Public Works office and Eric Winger's and David Todd's staff. They're great to coordinate with, and the consultants that are all parts of that are excellent. You made some good selections.
It's been really interesting as we've gone through this. We've had joint consultant meetings, and we've had ODOT there with our park consultant, with our convention center consultant, with our streetcar consultant, and it seems like the room had more than that in there, but it's, it's 40 people sitting around the table trying to work out and express concerns, and it's the professional respect and the give and take that's gone on in those meetings, I think, has been very, very helpful.
All right. Pete?
What's the speed limit proposed, say, between Western and Robinson?
Western and Robinson, that'll vary. It'll drop down from 35 miles an hour at Western to 25 miles an hour as you approach into the downtown. Probably right at Reno, we'll drop it into a 25 mile an hour design.
All right. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
We also have a sales tax collection report on. The first collections of the month for sales tax was down about $750,000, which is about 4% under target and about 1.3% under last year. Not the best way to start out. Last July was a strong month for us, but there's just a lot going on out there. The Dow Jones has been very volatile recently. The price of oil this morning stands at $46 a barrel. The crisis increase. There's a lot of, if you want to, you can paint a pretty cloudy economic national and international picture out there. Things have been positive in Oklahoma City. Our unemployment, which is still low, actually went up a little bit in July. So there's a lot of conflicting factors out there. This isn't a crisis, but it's certainly some cause for watch as we go forward.
All right. Citizens to be heard? Is that it?
Yes.
Okay. Jonathan Dodson. We have several people that have signed up. I'll ask each of them to keep their comments to under 3 minutes. And Jonathan, we will need your name and address for the record, please.
Jonathan Dodson, 1220 Northwest 20th Street. My name is Jonathan Dodson, and I live in Ward 6. And I was reading an article by Edward Glazer, and he was talking about Boston. And he said, Boston has been able to rebound and reinvent itself for 4 reasons. They innovated instead of stagnated. They valued diversity and complexity. They attracted people, not companies, and invested in education and social capital. I'm a product of Oklahoma City doing many of those things. Had our mayors, Nora Humphreys and Mayor Cornett, not been so willing to push ahead, myself and many other Gen Xers and millennials would have left for the allure of other cities like Denver and Nashville and Indianapolis. But under your leadership and the council's leadership, our city's young professionals have grown over 21% since 2000, which is remarkable. This is what's so crazy. The aforementioned demographic has not only experienced engagement, growth, wonderful development, but also a bright future. The inheritance you are leaving us is wonderful, but it's also a big burden, for it's always easier to undo good that's been done than to build on the good that's been built. So because of this, today I ask for 2 things. 1, to leverage the incredible gift that MAPS that you have given us, and 2, to consider another MAPS, a MAPS for neighborhoods, with 1/2 of the MAPS funding going towards neighborhoods in all 8 wards focused on connectivity, culture, and health. Many others will speak after me in the upcoming weeks, noting specifics that they wish to see, laying out kind of a high-level roadmap or a telos in which we hope to aim, and building upon the great virtues and building blocks already in place. We are not naive to think this is easy. Great challenges lie ahead as we try to work hand in hand with the city, the chamber, and the neighborhood associations. Yet, The long road ahead is not a deterrent from starting, but an impetus for urgency. Has not our city seen challenges before? Waylaid by economic crisis, we came back strong. Devastated by terrorism, we came back stronger. A dead downtown that's now alive. We are resilient to fight back. Now let us use the fight to give those a voice who are waiting for an opportunity to be heard. Right now in our city, we have dinner clubs that are focused on racial reconciliation. We have people clamoring for a thriving Capitol Hill, a desire for the great culture of the Northeast Side to have an opportunity to self-create and self-manifest. Requests for better access via BART to the Northwest Side. Sidewalks to schools, not just in my ward, Ward 6, but in every ward. Food in our schools that feed our children, not just feed our children, but nourish them. Streets that acknowledge humans, not just cars. This is what's so marvelous about this time, this moment in our city's history, that we get to be a part of a conversation for righting wrong, building on what is good, and leveraging a brain and maps that can create something for the 8-year-olds and the 80-year-olds. 50 years from now, I truly believe we will look back at this moment and say, did we do enough? Did we use all of these wonderful gifts aligned for the common good, or did we squander it? See, this is the wonderful thing about being for something. We get to push back against those barriers that have kept us from knowing our neighbor, and that is a wonderful thing. I've shared this story, but I have a friend who moved here from San Diego, and he started coming here in the 90s, and he said that when he would come here, there was actually nothing to do. And he said it was wonderful because people just hung out with one another. And he said in San Diego it was weird because people only moved for themselves, they moved for hobbies. And so you had his friend as long as you shared a hobby with them, whether it was surfing or the weather or climbing. And he said that's what marks the Renaissance in Oklahoma City that's so different from any other city. What undergirds it is relationships. And that's something that I hope to leverage. So in closing, I ask that we use this public good known as maps so that the infrastructure of our neighborhoods match the quality of people who call Oklahoma City home. Thank you very much.
Jonathan, thank you. Kamal Pennington.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is Kamal Pennington, and I am was born and raised in Ward 7 and very proud of it. We're well represented by Councilman Pettis. I'm also a very proud alum of the Oklahoma City Youth Council, which you all recognize today. So it's definitely a program that's close to my heart, and I'm so glad to see that it's continuing. As Jonathan has already said, we are really grateful for the outstanding leadership that you all have displayed with the MAPS projects. Our city has truly been transformed for the better and serves as a model not just for the state, but for the entire nation. As we look forward to the next MAPS projects, we hope to collaborate with business and community leaders to work together to have a conversation about MAPS in hopes of continuing that transformative impact not only in downtown Oklahoma City, but also throughout the entire city. I'd like to quickly review just some of those thoughts that Jonathan mentioned with regard to MAPS, and that is connectivity, health, and culture. First, with connectivity. Successful cities are united cities, not just in their mindset, but by their design. With an eye towards connectivity, we dream of sidewalks, bike lanes, trails that allow every person in every neighborhood across our city the opportunity to walk to the grocery store, or for kids an opportunity to walk to their neighborhood school. And addressing connectivity also means taking on a challenge that I know that all of you have worked hard on, and that is our road repair and congestion and construction on our roads. So connectivity with MAPS could also address these issues. Secondly, health. Mayor Cornett has been a pioneer of initiatives to help Oklahoma City residents lose weight with the OKC Million website. We can continue and expand that work by using MAPS as a platform for an investment in recreation or for an investment in community centers, which can be used for building community and for growth. Healthy people make healthy cities. This investment could be critically made through the next MAPS. And finally, culture. I know that each of you takes great pride in our city and state's rich history. As one example of the impressive history of our city, just consider Ward 7's distinction as being one of the birthplaces of modern jazz in Deep Deuce. Every neighborhood has a unique story to tell. By emphasizing culture in MAPS, we can create neighborhoods whose artwork, landscape, and architecture accentuates and celebrates the diverse and rich history of the neighborhoods throughout our city. So, in closing, I hope that we can work together for a common vision for MAPS that will make projects that focus on connectivity, on health, and culture. Thank you for the work that you have done on MAPS and in leading our city. Thanks to you, Oklahoma City is truly in a renaissance. But by making an investment in the connectivity, health, and culture of our neighborhoods, we can be sure that Oklahoma City's greatest days are still to come. Thank you.
Kamal, great to have you here, especially on a day where we have the Youth Council. It's great to see you wanting to get involved further. Thank you.
Your Honor, may I just make one quick comment? You know, we like to hear these kinds of ideas, but I just have to throw it back to both of our speakers. You'll have a responsibility to encourage people in your age group to get out and vote. So we can put all the plans together, but it's going to require a vote of the people. And unfortunately, you know, in the past, those various age groups have not turned out well for city elections. Thank you.
Ken Babachek? I think Ken may have left. All right, Joe Sarge Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. This morning, the reason I'm here is 15 days from now, August the 19th, State Capitol Rotunda inside, on the second floor outside the governor's office. The event, the resurrection of the American flag. A lot of military and a great many police officers are going to be there throughout Oklahoma County, Cleveland, Canadian, some judges, things of this nature. And all it's about, and I did send you all a rough draft, and I apologize for that. I'm the only person that does any of this. I don't have a secretary. But this was the final deal. And it is the program. And I've left a lot of names off of it due to the fact that there were some conflicting schedules, and I respect that. And I also want to commend the council. They will be well represented. I received a phone call from Mr. John Pettis Jr.'s office that he's going to represent the city of Oklahoma City at this event. And I thank you for that, Mr. Pettis, publicly. I do have a copy of the program here for you, and I hope all of you can come, even if it's for a little bit of time or just a few minutes, but you're going to meet a lot of interesting people there. Mr. Ed Beasley, I don't know if many of y'all know him. He is widely known. He has a book out called Lucky Enough. Him and I served in Chulai, Vietnam together. He's a Marine. He stepped on a mine in 1968, lost both of his legs. And I think I brought this up once before, and I served and came in right behind him in 1969 and 1970. But I would recommend and hope to see you all there, because you're going to miss an event that, well, you're just going to miss an exciting event. You really are. And I don't want to put any pressure on you, but remember, the only thing it's about is the red, white, and blue on the bottom of this sign. That's all it's about. Nothing religious, nothing political. Okay? Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thanks,
Council.
Joe. We have executive session. We'll be back.